So I'm Galit Zuckerman-Stark. I'm the founder and CEO of Medasense. Medasense is a med tech company, growth stage in the field of pain management. We developed and sell tools that quantify the physiological response to pain, which means our body responds when we are in pain or experience exposed to pain. And with the information that we provide, clinicians can personalize the pain treatment, so we will get what we call the right dose at the right time, the personalization of the treatment, so that as patients we will suffer less from pain or from the side effects of the painkillers. My background is engineering. I did bachelor and master degrees in computer and electrical engineering. Before starting Medasense, I worked for a decade in the high-tech industry, non-tech industry, specifically focused on algorithms and AI, even before it was a buzzword like it is today. So when I started the company, I really wanted to take kind of my expertise into the medical field, where if you already start a company, if it's successful, it can make an impact, do something good to this world, and basically started from an idea, and we might talk about it, and led a company from an idea to commercialization, including all the different steps that are there in medical company in order to get. For anesthesiologists, the concept of nociception and it's a medical term, is well known. As part of the work as anesthesiologists or the people who provide anesthesia, the clinicians who provide anesthesia, is take care of multiple things. So when we say the patient is under general anesthesia, what we mean is actually the patient receive medication for hypnosis, so he or she are asleep, that the patient receive medication for muscle relaxant, so that he or she won't move, so the surgeon can do their work well. And the third part of, we call it the triangle of anesthesia, is pain medication for the nociception. Nociception is the term of the physiological pain, because when patient is asleep, there is no pain. Pain is a conscious phenomenon when we are aware of what's going on. But even when we are unconscious, and as I mentioned, because of the hypnosis, we're unconscious during general anesthesia, there is still the physiological part of the pain, or the body responds to pain, and this is the nociception. And you really need to treat, and this is the task of the anesthesiologist, to treat this physiological pain or nociception, even though we are not aware of it. Because this is the pain that, or once we wake up, this nociception will become the pain. If you don't treat it during the surgery, you will wake up with pain, and this pain may last for months and years later if not treated well, and become a chronic pain by itself. So you really need to treat it when it's only physiological, even you don't remember, in order to avoid later on that it will become what we call the pain. And this is well known, and this is part of the day-to-day job of anesthesiologists. Managing the physiological pain or the nociception during the anesthesia is the task of the anesthesiologist or the anesthesia provider. In order for us to wake up, let's say for simplicity, not to wake up with pain, but actually even before, if you expose the body to pain during surgery, the body reacts, the heart rate will go up, the blood pressure increases, etc. And it can, at certain level of exposure, it may rocket high to certain levels that might be dangerous, especially for frail patients, cardiac patients. So this stress response or physiological response, even by itself, can be dangerous. And therefore, you want to avoid this stress response even before it becomes pain afterward. So first, this is done today to avoid this, from safety perspective. But what we see today, and by the way, today the way to assess whether a patient should receive less or more pain medication during the surgery, but done by heart rate and blood pressure. Because again, once the body experiences pain, it responds. It's the fight or flight response of our body autonomically, without us. The autonomic nervous system responds without us being aware or involved, like cognitive of that. And therefore they look at the heart rate and blood pressure and give the pain medication based on this. As of today, when this is the standard of care, still half of the patients wake up with moderate to severe pain, pain that they shouldn't experience once they wake up from surgery. Pain is ending well. And about 20% of the patients will continue to suffer from pain for months and years later, actually become chronic pain patients who had no issues with pain before. They came to the surgery not because they were chronic pain patients before. And about 6 to 10% of the patient will become opioid dependent. And patient who had no issue opioid naive before, no issue with opioids before, they will become dependent on that. So it seems as if, during the surgery, we should give more pain medication. There is not enough. But on the other side of kind of the equation, we already see today that more than 12% of the patients suffer from the side effects of pain of opioids. Can be vomiting, nausea, respiratory depression, can be very, let's say, big issues.
Yeah.
And it's also costly to the system. Just the adverse events cost, as a result, with surgery patients, it's about $5,000 on average per patient. Do the math for the whole US, it's about more than $20 billion of just the adverse events of opioid in surgical patients. So if you give just more, you might find yourself, on the other side of the equation, seeing more side effects. So it's really about setting the right dose at the right time during the surgery that will help it. And with the current tool, they are doing the best that they can, but with the current tool, it seems it's not possible. And the difference during the surgery, it's not even fine tuning. The difference between one person to another can be 30 times, 30-fold, like 30 times. One person will need a certain amount and the other person will need 30 times that certain amount at the same surgery, at the same, scenario. So we are really, 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 really different from one to another. And you just don't know that. This is where we showed in clinical studies, or randomized clinical studies, that if you use the NOL is nociception level in our product, the index. If you use the NOL per the suggested guidelines during the surgery, the patient will suffer less pain, about 30% less reported. The reports pain will be lower in 30%. And there was also a trend toward less opioid use post-operatively, about also 30%. And maybe to put it in a different words, and again, I quote another study, the chances for a patient to experience severe post-operatively pain if the treatment is guided by the NOL is 6 times lower than the standard of care. So this is meaningful. So this is how we see that our technology, the NOL technology, helps and improve patient outcome. Just in terms of how it looks and let's say the ease of use of the system, it looks like it's a finger probe, so it looks like pulse oximeter, but it doesn't include pulse oximeter. It includes different sensors, but it's something that you hook up to the finger, and then on the other side it's a bedside monitor, and you have like this number, what we call the NOL, Nociception Level, registered trademark. This number between 0 to 100 online update every few seconds. So basically you see this number changes, and the threshold, the recommended threshold is 25. So if like this number is above 25 for more than 60 seconds, then you should consider giving more pain medication. If it's below, then probably the patient is, let's say, on the right spot. And again, it depends on the scenario. But the idea is when to give the next, or when to intervene. So the technology, the concept of the technology, I mentioned how it looks, externally, how it looks, but in terms of the kind of the concept or brain behind. So the concept is that we are looking on multiple physiological signals. So heart rate, or in our case, pulse rate, or parameters that are related to the blood pressure, not necessarily the number, but that are affected, are part of the parameters that we are looking. But we are looking also on sweating and variability. There are guardrails of peripheral temperature and movement. So we're looking on different physiological parameters that all of them are, most of them, movement is different. It's, again, guardrail, but all of them are a reflection of the fight or flight response. So it's actually, and today, when the physician is looking, and the anesthesia provider is looking at the patient, so they're looking at heart rate, looking at blood pressure. Sometimes they will look on sweating, in terms of, they will analyze it by looking at the patient and the vital sign monitors. So what we do, we take all those inputs that are well known, again, whatever you can get from the patient's finger, but then we use AI, or specifically machine learning algorithm, to look on what we call the signature of pain response, or the changes, the patterns that repeat within those physiological signals, the nonlinear combination of these physiological signals that is unique to the pain response. So the AI, or the machine learning, is an important part of finding those signature. It's not possible with just rules or decision trees, etc. And actually, the combination of taking multiple signals or parameters and taking the AI made the solution very robust, because in many different scenarios where one of the parameters might not be working, just for example, if you take beta blocker, it might affect your heart rate, or other types might affect your blood pressure. So they won't be indicative or even as a response to pain. But the rest will work well because the other systems are not affected. So within the machine, the algorithm itself knows to find different signatures. So it's not one signature. So it's many examples of signatures that are, let's say, when they are present, it resembles a pain response. So this what made this technology very powerful in many different scenarios. On average patient, on average scenario. But what we see, there are specific population or scenarios that are more, let's say, in more need, that this average number are actually higher. Even to start from the beginning, actually there are surgery with patients that are starting with background of opioid use, spine surgeries, especially major orthopedic surgeries. So these patients, actually, the variance is very high. This difference with one is, so you really don't know, and they might need much more because the body is used to the opioids. So that's kind of one place where this information, that just, it's not, each patient is so different from each other, and you really don't know. The second element is with certain surgeries that are more painful, and for example, thoracic surgeries, these patients suffer from about 40% of them become chronic pain after the surgeries. So it's really, the surgeon really cares that, to try to avoid the pain with any means, by the surgery or by kind of local anesthesia or blocks, etc. So it's really by the mindset of the surgeon to take care of the pain beyond just the few hours after the surgery will be less painful. So this is where we see that it's very important. And for those, for example, population, giving them more opioids, actually, they are mainly lung surgeries. They have issue with breathing. So you give opioids, that one of its effects is a respiratory depression. So, they have issues breathing, then you give the opioids. So it's really, can be really harmful for them. And one of the issues of recovery is there is the therapy just to breathe well, so that you won't have pneumonia, and that we recover fast. But if you are painful, you just don't breathe well. It's not even So this is kind of an example where beyond the statistic of 12 or that, these are very specific scenarios that pain or opioid within with this population really plays a major part with getting improved patient outcomes. So This is kind of an example. So we are using the technology, as we mentioned, worldwide in setting of patient under anesthesia, surgery patient, and critical care. In the US, the FDA is for surgery patient under general anesthesia. Again, we are working in Europe with Medtronic, so Medtronic, our distributor in Europe, and we sell also in Canada, Latin America, Brazil and Latin America, Israel and our area for a few years now. And again, only recently, like a few weeks ago, we received the FDA de novo grant to get it to be approved to market in the US. So worldwide, the monitor, the solution, the PMD200 is already been used in more than 60,000 patients, like in clinical setting for commercial and other, selling commercial use. So we have seen it, and we got work and plenty of clinical studies out there that the knowledge has been used in different settings and helpful in different population, in different scenarios. So a lot of information is out there, and many of our users were happy, that it helps to their patients, are happy to share this and to educate, because it's totally new. So on our website, there are many lecture videos from operating room in different scenarios where they explain. So a lot of sharing this, educating and sharing this information. So the FDA went through the de novo pathway, which means there is no predicate, there is no pain monitoring for anesthesiology in the US. So we actually, with this grant, a new category of product, pain monitor device for anesthesiology was open. And we are the first and only in the US. But the process to get to this point was a long process, because it's a new technology. That's fine. I mean, this is by definition, but it's also kind of a new concept of looking, rather than the heart rate and the blood pressure, looking on measuring nociception and the path to explain what we measure, how we measure, AI, how you evaluate when the patient cannot communicate. So these are kind of steps that we have had to go through, going through the submission. And actually, the question that we have been asked by physicians worldwide, when we introduce it. Just, of course, for the FDA, you need to answer that with a lot of data to support that. So we're extremely excited and extremely happy with this FDA de novo grant, both for our company, but really opening the world for the concept of nociception monitoring, because the FDA is kind of worldwide, it's being perceived as the regulatory. Everyone looks at this FDA approval. In terms of the plans, so first we got the de novo now, so obviously introducing the null to the US clinician and to help the US patients. So this is our very immediate focus from the company perspective. from the technology perspective, the technology is not limited specifically to patient under general anesthesia. It's commercially and validated for patients under general anesthesia. But we're seeing, and we've done some studies and we've seen some work that the knowledge, the technology can be helpful in different settings, from clinic to home, where a pain treatment, information about the physiological part of the pain can be helpful to set in, whether to know you are the right direction or maybe not that good direction, as additional information to the subjective assessment of pain. So these are avenues that we kind of explore. But as a company, actually, with those avenues, we are looking for partners. So partners who know each one of these markets, whether it's oncology or whether it's orthopedic, post-operative. These are very specific kind of and different markets and with different business models. That therefore we are looking in order to get to these opportunities, we will look for partners. So all kind of these activities, from the commercial, immediate commercial, to exploring from the R&D perspective, additional paths. This is part
opportunities.
of our opportunities and moving forward, strategy moving forward.